If you would like to get your song reviewed, dear listener, there's the filthy capitalist option, as Sori says. 125 gets you straight to the head of the line. You don't have to be a part of the alliance. You don't have to be part of the group.
Wait a minute.
And the biggest thing is you don't have to wait. You hop, skip, and jump right in front of everybody. 125 gets you there. You do that 3 times, and you get mashed down to the $75 rate for perpetuity.
Yes!
Also, there is a band review option. So if you've got a band and you're trying to get your band some exposure, hit me up at sori@gmail.com, and I'll show you the details about how to pull that off.
You can also jump on Patreon, and there is a option on the tiers to be able to get your band reviewed. Yep. Obviously, we can't lie to you, so we can't guarantee a positive review. Get what you get.
It's just rubbish.
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 That's British for garbage.
My favorite is a community option. $1 at the gate gets you in at Patreon. You get to join an alliance. The alliance joins their points together, and that helps determine what songs that we do.
The alliances hang out on Discord.
Message me on Patreon to get the link.
And they do all kinds of other cool things. They do Minecraft, Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah. It's really a community within the community. Anybody can go on the village, facebook.com/VillageXchange. There's 160,000+ people on the channel. What's cool about the Discord is that it offers a real opportunity for community connection, friendship, that type of thing.
And it's on Discord, so if you're not a Facebook person, it's for you.
You start off at $1.
Right.
Plus you get exclusives. Sori and I are working on a song. So the first 15 seconds of that was on Patreon. Also, at $15 tier and above, when we actually debut the video, they're going to be there live with us. There you are, dear listener.
Buy merch.
Buy merch indeed, a child shall lead them. All right, guys, here we go. This is, what now? What's the name of the song?
This one is On the Breath of Poseidon.
On the Breath
and Egypt.
of Poseidon.
They're going back to back.
And Egypt. On the Breath of Poseidon, let's do it.
It's coming. There it is.
This is Egypt.
No, this is On the Breath of Poseidon. Exciting sounding.
love that part.
Yeah, me too.
Sounds very Egyptian.
Mediterranean. I like this. I think that's it. I
sure?
believe that's the next song.
Where we at?
Should be 34:38.
Yep. Holy shit,
All
that
right.
went by really fast.
Yeah, it was so enjoyable.
That
Those
was,
vocals, man. Shout out to the Wackatories
that was a
cooking supper for the fam.
This is a combined 13 minutes?
Well, I'm not sure if that's accurate or not, but supposedly 14 minutes and 18 seconds. But I find it very hard to believe.
All
Did
right.
you see that? The Wackator?
Yeah.
Sorry, I was busy
Yeah.
making... That's cute. I'm very glad to see that. You know what? There's a lot...
What?
I just have to tell this story.
Oh, God.
Okay, so in my past relationship...
You actually don't have to tell this
No,
story.
I do. It's actually kind of funny. And, you know, it's a little bit of a hat tip to him. I'm like, in my past relationship, the man told me he couldn't cook at all. He told me that every single day before I came into his life, he was having those chicken nuggets that you heat them in the oven, but he wouldn't even heat them in the oven. He'd microwave them. And that it was powdered potatoes and then the canned gravy, like literally all the nastiest stuff. So I cooked every single meal blah, 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 blah. Then I find out he actually can cook. And all that time, including after I had the baby, I was the one doing the cooking. So I'm like, you know what?
Man.
You know, that wasn't right.
Hey, homie.
That wasn't right.
Hey, do your thing, buddy.
But at the same time, you know, I tip my hat to you for...
It all evened out in the wash, my man.
Keeping up with that.
It all evened out in the wash, my man.
So I'm struggling by the stove after having the baby, leaning on things.
Yeah. Shout out to
He's like, if only I could cook.
Yeah, I know.
If only.
Yeah.
All right. On the Breath of Poseidon, which was an instrumental, and then straight into the song Egypt. I have to say, what they did with the vocals on this one, like the angelic sounding part, and then the part where they were mixing it all together.
Somebody said, like, okay, we got angels in the...
Yeah.
Man, when these guys do harmony, though, on the vocal side, it's something else.
Yeah.
They're a really interesting band. Like, I'm having a hard time, like, trying to describe them to myself. I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, how would I describe these dudes? Like, they're really... I'm really conflicted about this band, man, because...
Are you now?
Yeah, because, like... I think thematically, they're doing something that's difficult to talk about, like the balances and things like that, like how to continue to like make references to it while developing the story. I think it's very difficult to do. It's a lot more difficult than people realize.
Okay.
I think. So I respect that. Endless Sands of Atlantis.
Do you consider them prog?
Well, I mean, all the piano stuff and all the extra like stuff that they put on there that I'm not gonna say is I just don't understand it. Like I don't understand what like adding all the extra like what does it add to the song? I'm not particularly sure. And maybe it's because like you know we listened to the entire album's worth of stuff, so it's like it's hard to listen to a song where. You like listen for an album straightforward where you're like, man, that could have been like 45 seconds slower. You know what I'm saying? Whereas this thing, I'm not really focused on that though. I'm more focused on this story because it seems to be a very complex kind of story. Mm-hmm. We've got an oracle, we've got Egyptology, we've got
the devil,
balance. Yeah, like there's a combination of things like Western Christianity, Kemetic, Egyptian type of stuff.
Yeah.
This is an extremely ambitious record. I'm not sure if they're gonna be able to come like completely pull it off, like what they're gunning for. At this point, though, it's very interesting. What are you thinking about?
I'm just a little bit distracted. Okay, so first you have the Wackator who says, "Sorry, I was busy making dinner for my family." Okay, then over here he's like, "I just hate doing the dishes, though." And then hold on, wait. No, do Ian. Ian, I'm a man, so I don't do dishes.
I love it.
Followed by Ben, I'm a man, so I do all the dishes. Followed by Dwayne, I use paper plates and paper cups. It works.
Yeah, I remember being a kid and being like, why does anybody use real plates and cups? Like, that shit it was so weird to me. Like, why would you do that?
You remember we saw that episode on the Love is Blind when she was like, wait, you just... It's paper. I'm under that. Like I'm like I don't want to have to do the dishes, but if you have a dishwasher, that's kind of easier. And like there's when I bring you a plate and the plate is plastic or like paper, I just feel like that I'm like I like to feel like I'm doing a service when I bring you your meal. I like a nice presentation, and on it's a nice plate. I like a nice plate. I don't like giving you something in paper. Anyway, but that's just me. Right. Okay. The part where he says, "Rise, my minions, from within the deep abyss. My disciples thunder this." What do you say? Necropolis.
Yeah, Necropolis. It'd be a city of dead people. I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Thunder. My disciples thunder this necropolis. Yeah.
Yeah, right here. It's a cemetery, especially a large one belonging to an ancient city. That's kind of a cool name, though. I'm not gonna lie.
Why?
I don't know. I just like the sound of it, Necropolis, and maybe it's the way he was singing it. Maybe I wouldn't like it if somebody was like Necropolis, but because the way he sung it, it was like really great.
From the ruins of Atlantis, the Lord of Night rises from the sands. He seeks the one, the serpent's tail and twisted tongue, a bringer of war, destroyer of the land. 5 a line, hidden in the word a message locked in time.
That part was crazy when they were singing that part, right?
Find the key. It draws the final line between what is and what should never be. So there's some way to prevent whatever destruction, because Atlantis, that's the entire theme of Atlantis, is that we had this sort of idyllic world, and then it's going to be destroyed by human arrogance / whatever. Like, that's the entire point of Atlantis, right?
And remember, you had the
that's what we're dealing
devil
with.
like 2 songs ago that was saying like he was doing something for himself. That was basically when he was saying like in his own image.
Right.
So.
Right. So, but develop that. What are you saying?
Well, just because you were saying like Atlantis is getting destroyed by human pride or whatever, and you have like this being 2 songs ago that's talking about like he wants stuff in his own image.
Got you. Yeah.
Yeah, just the correlation there. And then he says, "Gaze in these eyes, my child, and see, here by my side you're destined to be. Fears in the night, flee with the sun. If we are one, kingdom of gold I lay at your feet. Ruler of time and space you will be. Rivers of truth forever will run if we are one." So is this character good, or, I mean, you never know.
But it looks like a
Because then they're
Faustian...
saying, "Rise my minions from the cemetery." So I'm like, what's actually happening with this character here? See what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I agree. For some reason, I thought I heard something about a Faustian, but that must have been in an interview or something that I had heard before. But
I thought that they said Faustian way at the beginning. Of
yeah,
the
he
song,
said.
bruh.
I could have sworn.
Oh no, it's Favilla.
I could have sworn.
Forget about it.
Well, it's the whole like selling your soul to the devil idea. Is a Faustian idea, and so like this guy is like.
Oh,
See
well,
what I'm
the
saying?
concept seems like it's kind of there.
Yeah, he's saying all this stuff about.
But he's saying like rivers of truth forever will run if we are one. Like he makes himself sound like he's a good guy.
Mm-hmm. But but that's what I'm saying. Like that's part of the whole deal, right? Like it's this sort of Faustian idea that if you give me that, then you're basically selling your soul, type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And from the ruins of Atlantis, the Lord of Night rises from the sands. He seeks the one, his serpent's tail, twisted tongue, 5 alive, hidden in the world. But yeah, what you set up there though, when he says, "Fears in the night will flee with the sun if we are one. Kingdom of gold I lay at your feet. Ruler of time and space you will be. Rivers of truth forever will run if we are one." So
that's interesting.
He's trying to tell this person like, yeah, I'm going to give you all this, but they've got to do some sort of like mind meld for this to work somehow. Is what it looks like.
Remember when Jesus is in the wilderness, and then you have Satan comes up to him and he like brings him to, basically shows him all of the nations or whatever, and he's like, basically, you can rule all of this if you just bow down and worship me. You kind of see that paralleled here with kingdoms of gold I lay at your feet, ruler of time and space you will be. So he's basically saying, I'm going to give you this, you're going to rule this. But then it's interesting because it says rivers of truth forever will run if we are one. But that makes him sound like such a good guy. But then you also have, there's another verse in the Bible that talks about the devil coming as an angel of light. So people assume that something looks good, it has to be good. In the spiritual sense, I think people think that more than they do like with gimmicky things out in the world. But
the other thing too is like, does the devil character know that he's the devil, or does believe that he's the devil? Like a lot of folks, like when you listen to these guys, like the devil doesn't like have a self-perception that he's evil. You see what I'm saying? Like he might be saying all this stuff like with some sort of genuine like, let's team up together so that we don't have to be under this guy's rule or whatever.
I actually believe that. I think that's very possible.
Like that's one of the things I've always thought about, which is like, do evil people know that they're evil people? Like that's one of the things where like, we talk about the road to hell being paved with good intentions and all things like that, and it's like, the road to hell is paved with sin. However, there is a wisdom there, which is to say that a lot of what we call evil are just good things which have been corrupted, right? Like, so for example, the Bible says you're supposed to love your neighbor. Well, obviously, a lot of that is based on proximity. So there's a sense in which Sori is my neighbor, that I'm duty bound to love her. But Sori is my neighbor in a way that's different from literally our next door neighbors, right? And then, of course, Jesus expands the concept of neighbor to the entire world when he gives the parable of the Good Samaritan, right? Because the guy's like, well, who's my neighbor? Like, who do I have to be nice to? And who am I allowed to just...
They loved making like a law to something so they could be like, I followed it, never realizing that like what is going on inside your heart is the main issue. So they wanted Jesus to give them something that would be like, hey, these are my neighbors, so I can exclude all those.
Yeah, tell me the people that I'm not obligated to be completely nice to.
That's what the question actually was.
Yeah, and the text says, like, the guy is a lawyer seeking to justify himself, asked, who is my neighbor? Yeah. So, like, if you come from the perspective that everybody's your neighbor, and so you owe everybody love, respect, etc., then you're gonna go and treat people a certain way. And if everybody kind of gets that idea, you're gonna build a society that's completely different. Yeah. Right. So, I was in a debate with an atheist one time, and this question kind of came to me, and it really has been just it was powerful when I asked it in the debate, but like just overall, it has a serious impact. The question I asked was, what kind of worldview creates handicapped spots? Yeah. Right? Yeah. Like where there is a lot of metaphysics happening in a handicap parking spot. And so like Atlantis is kind of like the precautionary tale of this is what happens when human beings do the Dominion mandate without God. And so the Dominion mandate is be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth, and subdue it, which is basically dominate the physical world that you're in. And so it says, fill the earth and subdue it, means you're supposed to be the kings and queens of the entire world. Now, you got people that were able to accomplish that in Atlantis. Atlantis, as an idea, is sort of all of human ingenuity, peak human ingenuity on 10. What kind of society would you create? And you created a society like Atlantis, which was technologically advanced. They had everything. Everybody was rich. There were no poor people in Atlantis. Everybody was beautiful. And so it was Atlantis was the pinnacle of what Homo sapiens were as an idea, as a pinnacle society of what Homo sapiens were able to create. But because of this, they were extremely arrogant. And due to their arrogance, they ended up losing the city and everything got subsumed under the water and nobody ever saw them again, et cetera, et cetera. So Plato used that story of like, hey, this is what happens with human arrogance and things like that. So make sure you keep your humility, while at the same time we're still in the business of trying to, fill the earth with all this technology, et cetera, et cetera. And so Atlantis kind of has always been in the mindset about that balance between, and it's interesting because Plato never really says the way to solve this problem is to simply do this Dominion mandate stuff with the understanding that there's a God above us. Yeah. And that we are accountable to him. Of course, Plato did not come to that conclusion. And so because of that, I mean, in my opinion, obviously the point of the story of Atlantis gets lost. The point of Atlantis is to not say,
that's so interesting.
Oh, well, we need to get away from technology, and technology is a problem. And it's not even human pride is the problem. It is a...
Yeah, that's kind of what I was wondering, Babel.
It is a lack of the recognition of the God above you, which obviously is prideful, but it's a specific kind of pride. It's a pride that ignores God. Yep. Like, if there truly is a God, then it would be criminal to ignore him. And so when you have people building societies and all that, and they're saying, we're going to do this without God, we're going to take all of God's gifts, but steal it from him to advance our agenda and fuck him and whatever. And the point of Atlantis is like, oh, that's cool. We'll have this conversation at the bottom of the ocean. So there's that.
Do you think there's any connection between Babel and Atlantis?
Babel and I think there's probably a connection thematically in the sense of, because Babel is like that, right? Like we've got the accumulation of technology and we're going to use technology in a corrupt way in order to... I would say Babel's different though, because in Babel they were recognizing that they needed the gods, right? That they were trying to build the temple to interface with the gods, That was the entire point.
It's
so
interesting because
Babel's a little bit different to me than Atlantis.
Atlantis was always advanced, like almost to the point of like whenever you see it, it almost has like a mechanical side to it that seems like it was way beyond its time. And so for some reason, I guess I've had it in my head that that was a sort of like coalition between the human beings and the gods of that time. Like, you know, we
You talking about Atlantis or Babel?
Atlantis and Babel, both, but well, no, Babel. I never really thought that. I just thought that the people got together and said, "Hey, like, let's make our way." But Atlantis, I kind of was thinking it was like because when you think Hercules and like different stuff, like I don't know, I always picture them sort of active in that sort of environment. I don't know.
Yeah, I think the main difference for me between Babel and Atlantis is that in Babel, the goal was to connect with the gods. In Atlantis, the problem was they had no regard for the gods, right? That was the problem. The downfall of Babel was that they were engaging the gods. Namely, as I said, the lower gods, their role was to bring humanity. One was to take care of us and practically show us how to, fill the earth and exercise dominion and give us technology. But it was ultimately to point us back to God. But those beings loved the adulation and the worship. And so at some point, they stopped pointing people to the true God and absorbed the worship for themselves. And that's what was going on in Babel. In Babel, people were saying, let's systematically come up with a way for us to interface all the time. And that's what they were doing with that tower, which we all know is a ziggurat, which is a temple. Atlantis was about, we're human beings, we're Atlanteans, we're brilliant, look at all the shit we figured out. And we're beyond the gods now. We've got our own wonderful society. We don't need the gods anymore. Okay. And so Babel, they're both of those mythologies or stories, however you want to, characterize them, are talking about specific aspects of humanity and how the humanity relates to technology, advancement, and God, and how to combine physics with metaphysics, right? So like we've got, it's really interesting because if you look at the Genesis account, it says that they took brick and they took, mortar, whatever the term, and it was just a very earthy, dirt under your fingernails type of episode in the scripture. Strong. But on top of that, there was the metaphysics of we're gonna get to heaven, which is it's an ancient Near Eastern way of saying that you're going to interface with the gods because the gods lived on mountains. And so when you made a ziggurat, you were trying to replicate the mountains that the gods were on. And you were trying to say, hey, come hang out. And that's what was going on in Tower of Babel.
Again, when they were in Eden, it's spoken about that there's like the panel of the gods that was set on the mountain. So when they looked back, because the history had been short at that point, when they looked back at their past and they thought of the good times or, make the earth great again. It was back in Eden.
That's good.
So the gods were up on the panel, like they were up on the mountain. So when they're outside of that place, they know that they can never return to Eden the old way. Like they can't go back the way that they came. But they're like, okay, how can we kind of reinvent that out here?
Yeah.
And so they're trying to get over there. When the entire thing was in the garden, they were supposed to connect with the God. Like the high God, the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, but I don't know. I guess that's probably like the story of humanity. Like sometimes we feel like we can't reach to a certain goal, and so then you settle for lesser things.
Oh, yeah. And for sure.
It is to our demise.
For sure. What'd you give the song?
9.8 on this one. Those vocals when they got in there like that, the 5 a line hidden in the word, a message locked in time, find the key. It was beautiful.
Yes, I've never seen this one before, but the Morgue Dance 13 person said this does sound like Rush. And you remember Rush with the weird drummer?
Yeah,
the drummer was like,
I do.
It's like an octopus, like 15 hands or something like that. That guy, that was the weirdest, most mesmerized I've been by a drum solo in my life. That guy in Rush. So I definitely, I actually do get a kind of like Rushy kind of feel with this band though, which is kind of weird. But yeah, whoever you are, interesting comment. What did you give this
I gave
one?
it a 9.8. What did you give it?
I really enjoyed the way that they did that course, man.
Me too.
When he did the 5 allied, hidden the word, message locked in time. Like, I was about to do that thing, but I know how much you hate it, so I didn't do it. But
Why do you keep saying that?
Well, because you don't
I've
like
said
it.
a million times, the only reason I hated when you did that, what, do you do this on purpose? I used to have to edit the stuff by hand and line it up by hand, so when you rewound it and replayed it, it was impossible. It was very difficult to get it excellent. I don't do that anymore now that we have Ecamm. So for like the 29th time, you can rewind it if you want, babe.
Yeah, I mean,
it doesn't affect me anymore.
It's nothing bad. I just, you know.
Yeah, but you keep saying you didn't do it because of my reaction.
I mean, it was,
you were really like traumatized by that, I
I
guess.
don't say traumatized.
Well, you keep forgetting how many times I've told you.
It
Was. I would be so frustrated because when I do something, I want it to line up friggin' perfectly, and it was impossible to get it to line up perfectly. And I like hated putting out stuff that wasn't lined up. Now we do Ecamm, so the whole thing is right. Everything that you're seeing, Vinny's like orchestrating the entire thing.
Ecamm does all the work for us at this point.
Yeah, so you can run it back anytime you want.
Whatever. All right. What did you give it?
I give it a 9.8. What did you give it?
9.
That chorus,
I really
man.
love that chorus. I really love that
That
chorus.
chorus, like,
It took a lot for me to get to the chorus, though. It's my issue. It took a lot for me to get there.
I love this.
Took a lot for me to get there. So I'm gonna give this one an 8.8. These guys are
8.8?
Yeah, for a prog band, these guys are badass. I'm not gonna lie to you. I mean, it's hard to.
I'm insulted.